Okay, yeah, I'm telling you.
Always works.
Twitter Spaces. I totally missed out on a Twitter Spaces yesterday that I wanted to be a listener of because I joined too early and it glitched out, and it was that one of my friends was on, and I thought it was just blank the entire time, and I finally messaged him, and I was like, hey, when are y'all going to start this space? And he was like, dude, it's over. And I was like, what? I missed it, but the entire time I was just sitting there, and my avatar is not saying anything, it's blah, blah, blah. So having done dozens of these things now, I can just tell you, it is a cluster and a half. So yeah. I'm just glad that everybody's here. 5 people on the space. Most we've ever had for a Bitmart AMA Twitter space, and I don't think that we have any housekeeping today. Everybody who's listening, there's no rewards that we're giving out. It's just a friendly and interesting chat with KTO, which the reason why I'm saying KTO is because I would like from one of the members of the team, how should I be pronouncing this? I know that it's a Japanese word.
Yeah, it's pronounced Kounotori, and it is the Japanese for store.
Gotcha. Kounotori. Okay. Kounotori. It looks like it would be simple to pronounce, and then I open my mouth and it is not so. So, anyways, guys, I'm on KounotoriToken.com, and the first thing that we're met with is this big quote that says, "Put not your trust in money, but put your money in trust." And then it goes on to say that you aim to create the first community-driven centralized exchange with staking rewards of up to 20% APR paid in stablecoins, an NFT marketplace, NFT staking perks, your own blockchain, and governance via the Nest Council that will nominate and vote on new crypto projects to list. Very ambitious, gentlemen. Yeah. So I'd like, since there's 5 people on this, y'all are going to have to figure out who you want to speak, or if you're going to do a round table sort of thing, it's fine with me. I'll never interrupt you, but I guess that our natural point to start off with for people, in this space is, what is Kounotori? How did you get it started? What are you trying to do here? And anybody can answer. You guys can. I'll let you go on for as long as you want to.
Okay, sure. I'll jump in. So if we're talking about what Kounotori is and how it was created, essentially what happened is we were investors rather in the past. So when creating Kounotori, the token, we very much had in mind the investor's perspective, and the most important thing from the get-go was making things as transparent and visible for investors as possible, and making things clear and concise. So yeah, from the get-go, from the start, we thought there was no other way to do it other than dox ourselves, giving that reassurance to investors. That includes myself, Adrian, and Yoen, the token founders. And then on the back of that, we also underwent a KYC evaluation, essentially like a rigorous evaluation to determine that we are indeed who we claim to be. And then on the back of that, we also did a contract audit via Certic, and we do everything we can to, as I say, to make things visible, and that includes our marketing and development funds, which are again publicly visible, but then also secured with our 4 out of 5 multi-signature lock process on Gnosis. And I think the idea of being transparent in the development of the token has then carried on into building our KTO Exchange, which we are working together to build with Tech Alchemy, who have been kind enough to join us today on this Spaces. A fantastic development studio filled with an absolute amazing amount of talent on there. We are working together to build this exchange. If you guys would like to introduce yourselves as well, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're called Tech Alchemy. We have been in the world of crypto for a fairly long time. So we were started at the tail end of 2015. And so, whilst we're a fairly new company in the world of crypto, we're one of the older agencies out there. We're kind of lucky. We get to work on simply projects that we think have potential and projects that we care about. And so when the guys sort of reached out I would say six months ago ish. We really liked working with them. We really like the ethos that they have is actually fairly rare in the world of crypto. A lot of people don't want to be known. They don't want to, they're worried to put their face on something, and anyone who's worried to put their face to their project is, something that we as Tech Alchemy try and stay away from. And so, yeah, it's been a really great journey so far, and we're very happy to be involved in the project as well.
Whoa, was on mute there a little bit. You know what I find interesting, and thank you everybody for sharing that. If anybody wants to chime in there that there's something that one of them left out, I find that interesting. Tech Alchemy, you were saying that you only want to invest in projects that can put their face out there. Isn't that interesting that the only project to successfully not have somebody put their face onto something was Bitcoin? So far,
literally the only one,
mm-hmm.
Right? Exactly. And I think it's very telling of the industry as a whole that we kind of, when you're deep in the world of crypto, you just become numb to this stuff, and so you think it might be normal not to put your name on something. But we live in a world where, regardless of regulation, would you do business with someone or invest your money with someone who you've never seen or even knows exists? Probably not. And so why would you do that with something that's much actually less regulated and so less protected? So we only work with companies who, are fully doxed and all of that kind of good stuff. But it's an interesting one that isn't the norm.
Yeah.
Given, as you say, that Bitcoin is the obvious exception, right? It shouldn't be the one that we base everything on.
Yeah, it's interesting too. I was almost thinking about, as you were saying that, about how, you have the kind of phenomenon, the paradox almost of the kindness of strangers, right? Everybody's had an example where somebody who never introduced themselves, and you don't know their name, you don't know where they went, they were kind to you and then they kind of just left. But at the same time, almost all of us, we don't intrinsically, like, if I meet somebody on the street or if I'm walking down an alley, I don't immediately just trust them and be like, here's my money and like, here's my social security number and here's where I live and things like that, because that that's just not a norm you should adhere to. You want to do a little bit of a deeper dive on a relationship with somebody before you intertwine your life with them. But it's just interesting when we think about that in the crypto world, about how you're completely right, but then also the biggest crypto of them all. Nobody knows who or what or, founded it.
That's true, but
aliens.
I mean, one of the most interesting things, I think on Bitcoin, I think one of the biggest risks to the price of Bitcoin is still, does that big Satoshi wallet does anyone have access to it? And so even though, the same way that no-name founders can rug, crypto project that launched last week, there is this guy who might exist, who might be alive, who can do this. And so it's still the worrying thing about Bitcoin. And so even, I just don't think Bitcoin, everyone says, look at Bitcoin, they don't have a named founder, but that's just one, right? There's one. Yeah. And do you want to base yourself off the one that was successful, or do you want to follow, what people actually trust?
It also doesn't, just automatically make it okay that it has happened before. Like, that's not really how anything works, right? So
yeah,
it's an interesting dynamic in that, people look to Bitcoin for all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And we've met these guys, so I can confirm to you all they are who they say they are.
Sure. Yeah. My last thoughts on this, because it's it's about KTO and it's not about Bitcoin. I've often wondered if Bitcoin is the most elaborate sort of parable, a technological parable that's ever been invented, and that Satoshi is almost like a Jesus-like figure who's trying to get all the world's billionaires, trillionaires, all the world's wealth to go into one centralized thing and then do a major rug pull to explain the consequences of human greed for some sort of, fair, like a forced redistribution of wealth or something like that.
Jeez.
Anyways.
Rugging Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Rugging Bitcoin would do, that's...
Because if Bitcoin was rugged, blockchain wouldn't go away. It's out there. People would still do stuff with it. But the market would, if you thought it would make the Great Depression look like a party. So,
Right.
Yeah.
So interesting, but we're not here to talk about that. We could talk about that all day. We're going back to Kounotori token, which I find interesting, gentlemen, too, because once again, I'm reading the stuff here from your website. It's an ERC20 token that you launched in Q4 of last year before the merge, and the total supply is 1 quadrillion. I didn't know that the number a quadrillion existed. It's quite a large amount, and I'm sure that people listening want to know, what that supply means and the kind of tokenomics. And then 2, why an ERC20 token instead of there's all sorts of interesting sort of smart contract platforms that have popped up now that are continually being developed. One that's always in the forefront of my mind that I'm a big fan of is Cardano. So if you could kind of explain the tokenomics here and maybe why you chose that or why the 1 quadrillion number is significant, please, anybody.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the tokenomics that we implemented were sort of set aside to leave potential for growth, and were, of course, building on trends as well as other things. When you are talking about how we've implemented those tokenomics, we thought it was important to obviously have our funds for marketing and development set aside based off of reflections in the form of Ethereum. So they're split in the form that Ethereum reflections go to marketing development to help propel the building of the exchange, which Tech Alchemy are working on. And then reflections come back in the form of our native currency Kounotori, which then go back to our holders. Now, the way we've set things up, and this is why there's a bit of a trust involved, and doxing and all these important things needed to happen, is due to the fact that our contract isn't pronounced. The reason that we haven't pronounced our contract is it allows us to do a lot of great things on the background of hosting things like no tax events, reduced tax events. It means that over time we can take the tax and decrease it over time. We can give more reflections to holders over time and less to funding the marketing and development funds. So yeah, in terms of how we set things up, we sort of looked at it as an ever evolving part of Kounotori that over time, once the project grows and the price increases, that we'd be able to give holders before the exchange is built and created. We'd like to give them a form of passive income in the form of Kounotori. Then once the exchange is created and built, we are very much entertaining the idea of renouncing the contract, changing tax to 0%, and having all forms of return coming through the exchange rather than reflections. So the way we set things up is just to give people a source of return while things are being built, while things are progressing.
Sure, and that makes sense because the first line that you have here is that it is a community-driven centralized exchange, but as you're telling me, the exchange is still being built. So right now you'd be getting rewards in KTO, kind of like almost getting stock equity in a startup. But then once the exchange is actually built and it's a community-driven centralized exchange and you're getting those staking rewards, these staking rewards would be put out in a stable coin. Is that correct? Have I gotten that correct?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
And sorry, I was just going to say on the topic of staking as well, because obviously you can stake Kounotori, it'll be the highest return of APY up to 20% through locking. But you'll also, of course, be able to stake other various new trusted tokens that will be listed on the exchange. And of course, if you're a new token, then to be able to qualify to list on the exchange, you'll have to undergo the same sort of rigorous things that we've undergone. So KYC evaluation and contract audit will be a standard. That will be a requirement to be able to list on our exchange.
Interesting. Okay. And I kind of wanted to go down that path a little bit. And, Yoglev, TA, Jake, anybody who wants to jump in, all you ever have to do is unmute yourself and just, interrupt me slightly. Or I believe on Twitter Spaces you can actually raise your hand, which I'm still not used to. Try not to repeat habits I learned in school, like asking to go to the bathroom. I just do it. But when I see here that it's a community-driven centralized exchange, I think that some people, they might at first think that's a paradox, and it's because of the word centralized, right? So when we tend to think of centralized exchanges, Bitmart is a centralized exchange, just like Coinbase or Binance, blah, blah, blah. They're corporations. They've got a hierarchy. I can make certain decisions, but ultimately I'm not the CEO. If they wanted me to do certain things or if they didn't want me to do certain things, that's just part of working for a centralized company. But this community-driven centralized exchange, I'm going to make a terrible analogy here, and you can tell me how terrible it is, but it's the way that I'm kind of getting at it in my mind. When I see the stuff that's community-driven, but it's centralized, I tend to think of like the farmer's market model, to where it's like, hey, everybody, in order to have this farmer's market, we had to get a permit from the city, and there's usually like a cop there, and they've closed off parking, and like, it's clear that like this thing is being allowed to exist by the larger entity. It's centralized. But at the same time, the guy who is selling you lemonade, or the guy who has fresh produce, or the gal who is, selling goat milk, or whatever they're doing at farmers markets these days, it's different here in Colorado. It's very community driven, right? And there's organic things that can happen within this centralized environment. So you have this element of participation, but the participation is within this formalized structure. Is that a good way to think of what KTO is building? I'd love for you to kind of explain more of this community-driven centralized exchange aspect.
I think that's a really good analogy, actually. I think it comes another point on that is if you were to go to a farmer's market and buy some mushrooms, you can be fairly sure that they're going to be mushrooms. However, if a guy in the street said, hey, do you want to buy some mushrooms? You can be less sure that these are, legal to use and the mushrooms that you're looking for, right? And so, well, you are, I suppose, but you get my point, right?
Sure.
And so by things being centralized, when the team is putting the community's interest at the front and it's centralized, the whole place is safer because there is a final check which someone can say, you know what, this doesn't fit with our guidelines, so we can remove it. Whereas, a fully decentralized exchange is, they obviously have a lot of benefits, but the downsides are the ability to get scammed. And so we can say that, on Kounotori, that's not going to happen because we're going to do all of these checks before the person comes or before the product comes onto the platform. And so, yeah, absolutely community driven in that the community will help and dictate in the direction that the product goes, but centralized in that you can feel safe in using it.
Yeah, and it also sort of leverages the community aspect from the other side. So obviously the community of investors, I think they might be lovingly called stockholders. But there's the community of investors that is driving this, but then also flipping that onto the sort of partner tokens that Martin was mentioning, that we want to build a platform to then lift up the community of other smaller currencies that we can then, as everyone was mentioning, do the checks that we need to do and make sure that we're comfortable with them, but also giving them a platform to provide for themselves and hopefully get bigger and things like that. So it's sort of both sides of that community aspect that this is really focusing on.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing that I haven't come across. Like the only thing that it seems analogous to in the traditional world is like, because I was thinking as I was listening to everybody here explain it with the farmers market model, I was like, oh, well, then it's not a DAO, because a DAO is like much kind of closer to anarchy, which is why a lot of DAOs are inefficient, because it's hard to get people corralled to get stuff done. Or some DAOs become authoritarian because you have 1 million people that have the potential to vote and only 5 people vote. So they lead the way. So this is more of like I said, another analogy that I came to is it's almost like a certified B corporation, where it's like in the US, you have these corporations that they're clearly corporations. They want to make a profit. They're led by a CEO. They're efficient, but they've made it a part of their mission to get lots and lots of consumer feedback in moving forward. And as long as the consumer feedback doesn't make them go out of business, they're open and willing to listen to it to improve. And, a lot of them are pretty high quality companies. So this is just kind of a fascinating thing. I don't mean to harp on this for, a long time.
It's sort of, the term sort of centralized is often, a con or a scary word, in crypto a lot of the time. But as it's becoming more mainstream and more people are finding out about it, and, we have non-crypto natives starting to do all sorts of things, centralized now becomes a word that's, more traditional. The more traditional approach, you have, that final sign off. There's this level of hierarchy and organization that means that, there's some level of safety. And so I think we're slowly starting to see centralized sort of come back around, I think, in terms of the way people think about these kinds of platforms.
Yeah, it becomes like a balance, like you said, because you go on, SushiSwap or Uniswap, and if you want to, you could lose your shirt all day. There's essentially no governance there, and then and then you go on someplace like Binance, and even if you're KYC'd up the wazoo, it might still take you 10 days to receive any funds that you've gone out from. It's just the way that they do business. So interesting that we have this community-driven sort of centralized exchange, and because it's centralized, you guys have mentioned that it's able to provide this level of security, transparency, being able to protect users that are going to be using it. And I've noticed here that you have a number of anti-manipulation features that I have never heard of before that I definitely want explained. And the one that really caught my attention, just because it's a very interesting name, is the anti-sandwich attack. Gentlemen, what's wrong with sandwiches, and why do we have to be anti-sandwich?
Well, with sandwich attacks, if anyone has traded on any decentralized exchange, it's likely, especially on tokens which require higher slippage, it's likely that you've experienced a sandwich attack, which is, for example, where a bot front runs you and buys a massive amount of the token before you, so the price jumps up right before your purchase, and then you end up buying at the artificially inflated price, and then the bot sells right after your purchase, basically stealing a little amount of your purchase. Essentially, that's a sandwich attack, because it's called that because there's 2 transactions on each side of your transaction, essentially sandwiching your transaction and taking profits off of it. It can get really extreme depending on the slippage that the user sets when purchasing. And some tokens I've seen sort of allow sandwich attacks purposefully because it boosts their volume. But in our case, we really wanted to focus on protecting the investors and our token holders. So we implemented a feature where no single address can make more than 1 transaction on our token per single block. In this way, we avoid essentially sandwich attacks, because the bots aren't allowed to make the transactions as quickly and front run and then instantly sell after the users.
Well, I just learned something here, and it had nothing to do with pepper jack or mayonnaise or anything like that. Thank you so much for explaining that. I mean, that's another thing that can be complicated, is like even being in crypto since 2017 and not being hugely into altcoins. Every so often, they're interesting, but kind of having 5 or 6 projects that have been my favorites that I tend to look at over the long term. You go on something like PancakeSwap and they're asking you about slippage and you're just like, should I go to school to have a finance degree? What the hell is this? So it's good to know that, I think most people, even if they've been in crypto a while, some of the financial terms can throw them off and they wouldn't have any idea
100%.
of what a sandwich attack would be. And so you just explain it right there that, somebody can basically use, I didn't realize how many bots are around there doing arbitrage trades and making a whole bunch of money off of people's essentially just like user errors. I actually read a news story yesterday where somebody had a maximum extractable value bot that they used to make $1 million in arbitrage in ETH. And then somebody else programmed a bot to get that bot to maliciously or to erroneously send that million ETH to an address that they had. So even the bot was tricked. The computer was tricked out of its money. The other 2 ones that I want somebody to explain pretty briefly are anti-honeypot and anti-tax manipulation, because those are, once again, also things that I don't think we think about when it comes to an exchange, or most people don't know about it. And then, gentlemen, we can, of course, talk about staking, NFTs, your own blockchain before we get to some listener questions, okay?
Yep, that's fine. So first of all, I'm going to cover the anti-honeypot feature. Basically, the way honeypotting works usually is when people can buy the token, but they either can't sell it, or the owner of the contract has a function within the contract where using which they can disable the selling. So users who have bought and haven't sold up until that point, they won't be able to sell ever. And then that can lead to the owner essentially stealing the money, rug pulling, or whatever. The reason why we're unable to do that is because we don't have a function where we can stop the trading. However, we do have a function where we can set a limit on single transaction amounts. So it works as a percentage of total supply, and the lowest 0.1% of the total supply, which equates to 1 trillion tokens. There have been instances where tokens have launched, and while they probably weren't planned to be honeypots, they did have this feature and wasn't restricted, so they ended up setting the max transaction to 0%, and no one was able to sell those tokens ever. As for the anti-tax manipulation, again, this goes the other way as well. Similar thing again, where tokens that have tax on each transaction, be it to fund their development of their utility or to fund their marketing, this tax could potentially be set to as high as 100%. So anyone who buys, sells, transfers their tokens are instantly going to have all their tokens taken away from them and moved to whichever wallet is set to receive them, essentially. The reason why we're unable to do that, even if we wanted to, is because, again, our contract is protected against it, because the function which allows us to control the transaction tax doesn't allow us to go above 8%. We actually have a video on our YouTube channel where I demonstrate all of that, and I show myself attempting to change both the transaction tax to above 8%, and I also try to change the maximum transaction to below 1 trillion, and both the values are rejected by our contract. So those were just safety features which we really felt comfortable implementing, because we together, the developers, have invested in many other tokens before, and some of them we just weren't comfortable with the amount of control that the developers had. Even if they didn't abuse that power ever, still we don't think they should have the power to essentially rug pull everyone whenever they want. So we made sure that we don't have that power.
Yeah, wow, that is freaking amazing. So you just explained something that had been a mystery to me for probably at least a year. I would always hear about that rug pulls where people are like, I can't sell, and you're like, I just thought that the token was so obscure that you're like, well, there's no exchanges to sell it on, which could have been a legitimate problem. But the making the maximum transaction amount 0 or making the tax 100%, I mean, gosh, that's just, I mean, it's interesting because it's contract manipulation. So it's like, it would be like if you signed a rental contract for an apartment and then like in the teensiest, tiniest print, they were like, oh, and by the way, when you pay the 10th month rent, we can come to your apartment and chop off your legs. And you're like, what? I didn't agree to this. And they're like, yeah, it's in the contract. So fascinating. Totally fascinating.
Or it's more like they added it to the contract after you'd signed it.
Oh, that's even more malicious.
I mean? Like, because imagine if the best example is imagine if the terms of your rental agreement said you will pay $1,000 for this place, and then one day they changed it and said now you owe us $1 million, and then you just say, well, I don't have it, and they said, well, too bad, get out then. You go, well, no, that's not what I signed up to. He goes, yeah, we just didn't tell you, we changed the contract. Because no one announces anytime anyone has manipulated this maliciously, they obviously don't announce it. You know, when someone turns their transaction tax to 100, no one knows, and people sell and they go, I wonder what's going on. How comes I didn't get anything? And then eventually someone on Discord's going to say, hey, I've just looked at the contract. The transaction tax at 100, don't sell. And I mean, it happened, at least it used to happen so much that, you know, it's kind of crazy to think that we have to call this stuff out. You'd think it would be normal for none of this to happen. But that's the world we live in, where
well,
you know, we have to say this is what we do, and people go, "Wow, I didn't even know it was happening to me elsewhere."
No, yeah, well, exactly, and I think it's an interesting educational perspective. Now, because I'm not crazy technical, as you can tell by my mind being blown by some of this stuff. So, is this something that's unique to smart contract addresses? Because now I'm thinking about like our earlier discussion of Bitcoin or other blockchains that are not necessarily contract addresses based on Ethereum, Cardano, any of the smart contract platforms. Like since Bitcoin is an open source protocol, or since, I guess, for example, Monero is a bad example because that's an obfuscated chain, but the Monero community really trusts the developers of Monero, and they don't have smart contracts on either of those platforms. It's just somebody controls the contract address, in this case, a developer or a core of developers, and since they're the contract owners, they've been able to manipulate this any way they want to, and they inform the community afterwards, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy. Interesting. Huh.
Or more like they never inform the community and disappear.
Yes. That's probably more like it. So then, So then auditability and being transparent in smart contract platforms is continually going to be a huge thing. I'm just now thinking in my mind about if Cardano has done anything to guard against this, or if Ethereum is. But maybe there isn't anything you can do.
You can't, right? Like a smart contract system is just letting you program things on chain.
Mm-hmm.
So Ethereum can't, Ethereum Foundation can't put something out that would stop people from being able to manipulate it any more than, any programming language company could stop you from doing something malicious.
Sure. Yeah. And I was thinking that, like, even if they did some, I don't know, some hard fork where they were like, well, now Ethereum, the maximum transaction tax could only be, I don't know, let's just say 50%. You'd still have rug pulls where people did 50%, right? Make off with tickers.
No, because transaction tax isn't something that Ethereum have written. This is something that the developers of that contract have written into it. So they just take tax in a different way. So smart contracts don't just have predetermined fields which you fill in. So you don't just have an empty smart contract and say, I want my tax to be 20%, and have, Ethereum haven't done that. Someone might have written that and then put it out there, but Ethereum haven't written these pre-contracts and just said, use this.
Ah, interesting. We're getting a little bit too technical here, even though I like the, in a weird way, I have some respect for the criminals that get super technical, but then at the end of the day, it is still just defrauding people and not really good for the world to keep spinning around. So
yeah,
a good way of saying, yes, it is kind of unfortunate that you guys have to be open about this and say, hey, by the way, we're not defrauding people. But at the same time, a lot of people don't know that it's happening. So I would look at it as more of an educational perspective that you guys are doing. So I wouldn't I wouldn't hang your head and be like, yeah, sorry that we have to do up front that we're not rug pulling you. I'd have to be like, hey, by the way, did you know that a lot of people want to rug pull you and we're not going to do that? It's kind of almost like a customer service guarantee, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was the important thing for us because we'd come into this, being investors in the past and having worked within other tokens, other projects, but not being developers. So we had that sort of insight that, people need to be, assured. And we sort of did that in every way we could. Be it, like I say, we doxed ourselves, made everything visible, did all the correct paperwork to give that assurance. And then, as Johan's been saying, all the implementations, all the security safeguards we put into the contract itself, and then did a video to explain to people why it's important and why you should look out for this, especially with new tokens. So yeah, I think we've taken that and tried to implement the same method of building the token into building the exchange, and we're doing everything we can to involve the community and show them the process of building the exchange, what's happening when. We're going to have a roadmap coming out shortly that goes into depth of what's happening within each sprint of development, and I think just allowing investors to follow along with the development cycle with ourselves and with Tech Alchemy, it should be really interesting when that comes out and see how people respond.
Yeah, and we definitely want to talk about the roadmap at the end. That's always a nice kind of way to close things out, especially before we take listener questions or maybe afterwards when we're talking about where people can find you, because it's always looking forward into the future. For right now, I also want to hit on, you guys have an NFT marketplace and NFT staking perks. Now, I see some of your NFTs, and a lot of them are the pixel storks. I love pixel art. So they're on OpenSea here. Could we talk a little bit about the NFT marketplace and some of the perks of the NFTs?
Yeah, of course. Well, the NFTs, essentially, they're going to have utility involved within staking on the exchange. So these are something that we've already, rewarded to holders, long-term holders, and we're looking to reward holders with NFTs most recently due to helping us, get listed on Bitmart exchange. And yes, so these NFTs will have benefits on our own exchange. And I need to double check what the exact figures that we've got in line for the current NFTs are. But essentially, yes, it will be a increased percentage on APY returns, be it the Christmas Stalk collection or the I think it was the OG collection we called them. They're done by a fantastic artist who we knew through Shiba Inu. He's done a fantastic job, and everyone loves him. But we're in the future, it's not something we're currently working on because obviously we're focused on the exchange. But yes, we would look in the near future, following that at maybe some form of NFT marketplace to expand on that, because people have responded really, really well to the NFTs that we've given away so far.
Nice, and they continue the stork theme that is present everywhere in Kounotori. I was just wondering, usually when people have NFTs, they want people to buy the NFTs, and that's what makes them a holder. But I think that with Kounotori here, it looks like if you have KTO token and you're willing to be part of the project, that's what makes you a stork holder, right? There isn't any one predetermined thing you have to become a stork holder.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They were especially the Nintai ones, the moving ones. Those were awarded to long term holders who haven't sold. It was a way of rewarding people for their sort of loyalty. We thought it was important to do that. The benefits should be pretty exponential on the exchange itself once it's up and running, which of course will increase their value. I think it was important to us we didn't just release NFTs without any purpose. I think giving NFTs an actual use is important.
Yeah, and it becomes increasingly more important. Not that NFTs aren't beautiful as art, but it's weird because everything in the crypto world moves so fast. I feel like we've almost progressed past the point where if you're only doing NFTs as art, it's like I don't know. It's like telling somebody that you're a graffiti artist, but it's no longer the 1980s or the 1990s. The people like accept it, but it's no longer like an interesting thing you can bring up in conversation anymore. Maybe that's a terrible analogy, but I am looking at the Kounotori. Like I said, I love pixel art, especially moving ones. The Christmas collection here with little storks with Santa hats is quite nice. But they're all the backgrounds are based on what kind of look like Japanese wood prints, and so it's pretty well designed art. I would ask everybody to just at least look at it. You don't have to buy it, but it's just nice. It's nice to look at well-designed pixel art because it's harder to do than you think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So moving on here, unless anybody has any comments or things they want to jump in on, and it looks like we lost TA Jake quite a while ago. I keep waiting for him to show back up, but he's just gone.
No, he unfortunately has some other meeting, I think. So
no worries.
He messaged me to say apologies that he's dropped off, but I thought I'd save it till the end.
No worries, no worries.
Someone noticed.
Yeah, and if anybody has a hard out, you can just let me know. Otherwise, I try and give the projects their due. Every project, people work hard on this stuff, so I don't like to just do 20-minute Twitter spaces like some people do. So real quick, moving on here, you talk about having your own blockchain, which, Bitcoin is a blockchain, Ethereum's a blockchain, Cardano's a blockchain. Having your own blockchain seems like a massive undertaking. Can you kind of expand on that? Because right now you're an ERC20 token. You're using somebody else's, a well-developed blockchain. What do you mean about having your own blockchain?
Basically, am I muted? No, I'm not muted. Basically, it's our plan for long future because we're building our exchange now. We're building other stuff, but we don't want to stop. We really want to be everywhere in crypto space, right? So yeah, the plan is to create safe blockchain without rug pulls, without without any honeypots, things like that. Just safe for the users because there isn't any blockchain like that is 100% safe in crypto space because rug pulls, things like that happen pretty much everywhere. So that's another mission for 5-10 years plans to create something that is safe for everyone.
Yeah, very, very much at the moment, our main goal is focused on the exchange, getting the exchange launched successfully, obviously doing testing with the community at the same time, and involving them in the process. Obviously, we talked about things like the Nest Council earlier on and involving the community. So that how we've involved the community in the token and developing the token and giving them sort of a feedback and evolving the project. We want to do that within the exchange as well. So the idea is that community members, holders, and investors will be able to have a say on which tokens we're looking at getting listed, which ones we should look at next, which ones should be listed. They'll have impact on how the improvements being made to the exchange in terms of user face, in terms of making any corrections or mistakes or anything like that. It just gives them a voice and a huge amount of feedback that we can then implement on the back of that. as well as having user benefits of being at the Nest Council. We're looking at like customization profiles and interesting things like that, little benefits of being on the Nest Council. So when we're talking about blockchain plans, that is something that we're looking to do beyond the KTO Exchange. But for us, the focus right now is fully on providing this exchange.
Understood. And I also love the Nest Council going along with the stork mentality. Did Martin, your chief marketing officer, is he the one that came up with all the unification of all the stork stuff? Is that because whoever came up with it, just good job. I want to tell you good job, okay?
I think it was definitely a collective effort between all of us. And also the community. I mean, we had a member of the community come up with the name Stork Holders way back when we were trying to come up with the best names for the holders, and that is fantastic. I fell in love instantly with that. But in terms of the idea behind the project and the idea of the stork and that was basically done off when we were researching the project. So we knew we wanted it to be, of course, transparent and accessible. We wanted to dox ourselves and have all these other things that we've talked about in place. But when coming up with the name, it was essentially we were looking through Japanese folklore stories. And that's when we came across a folklore story about a group of villagers that would often, give offerings to the storks by this massive lake, and then in return, the storks would then dive into the lake and retrieve treasure and give them back to the villagers. And we just thought that was such a perfect sort of analogy for staking and what we wanted to provide on the exchange. Just a really colourful sort of depiction of that. So on the back of that, we made our logo a stork. We made obviously called ourselves Kounotori, being Japanese for stork. And then we've just run with it there really, and it's people have come up with some really creative and interesting things.
I will have to look up that story. Very interesting. I guess
have we called it stalking yet? Or is it? Is it?
That was one of the names at one point. It was the Stalkers, and then we decided against it.
It sounds a little bit too close, especially with that English accent. It sounds a little bit too close to stalking, right? So
absolutely.
It's just going to get misinterpreted. Or I thought instead of staking, storking. But I think you guys. There's a good balance here. There's a good balance between witty and engaging, and then also still professional, right? You don't want to go too far to either side, because if you're too uptight and the tie is too tight, you can't relate to people. You're not a real person. But then if you are too loose and too funny, then you're kind of somebody like, and no shade to them, you're kind of somebody like Dogecoin, right? Which I've known about Dogecoin for many, many years. Still have love for it, but sorry, it's a little bit of a joke. It was meant to be a joke, literally. So you got to have a good balance there. I wanted to bring up to everybody here on the call that you guys are CerTic audited. So just once again, we've been talking about the transparency, the security. CerTic is kind of the, I would say the gold standard. Maybe that's a wrong analogy, but I usually think of it as the gold standard of audits in crypto. Bitmart actually just hosted a party with them in New York City along with Algorand. So they're a pretty trustworthy gang of people. And real quick before we take some listener questions, I wanted to talk about, this is probably in the future, there's a portion on your website here where you talk about a Kounotori payment card, and then I wanted to get into the 20% APR, APY? I always get these mixed up. Let's just say staking return. The 20% staking return paid in a stable coin, because it doesn't say what stable coin, and it doesn't say when we'll be able to do that KTO. So I think the payment card is in the future, but I'm interested in that 20% because that's pretty high for a staking return.
In terms of staking returns, Obviously, that's going to be in the form of stable coins, various different stable coins. And that goes for, as I said, other trusted tokens. They'll also be able to stake and see returns in the form of stables. I think that was the most important part to us was doing it in a sustainable and reliable way. We've seen time and time again over the last sort of few months, exchanges making promises that they then couldn't uphold to, and then have had to retrace and track back. And we wanted to make sure that we could provide what we're offering. Obviously, the source of the percentage APY is going to be mostly from the back of transactions happening anywhere on the exchange that will then go into staking funds. So I think doing it in this way, and rather than creating money out of thin air and staking in the form of your own currency, which again is not a sustainable way of doing things, we definitely leant towards the idea of returns in the form of stables.
Gotcha.
Oh, and sorry, you asked about the card as well, didn't you? Again, that is very much something that we're working on in the background, but it's something that will come following the exchange and will be implemented into the exchange afterwards. But yeah, very much interesting concepts, and we've got a number of ideas. It's probably a little bit too early to go into that at this stage, but we will definitely give updates on that in the future.
Very cool. Very cool. It's interesting, all these different payment cards coming out. So it's definitely a feature, even if it's just a minor part of what Kounotori is trying to do.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, guys, I'm trying to think about anything here that we haven't gone over other than the roadmap, which I want to kind of save for the end. It's always a nice way to close up on stuff because it allows people to talk about their hopes, dreams, concerns about the market, things like that. I think right now I want to open it up to listener questions. We have a couple listener questions that want to come in here. And right before, I just wanted to lay down some ground rules. Usually you guys are pretty good at these AMAs about asking good questions, not being disrespectful, being in a quiet environment, things like that. So I just wanted to say, one, you have to speak English. That's the only language that I can speak. I have to moderate the conversation. Usually everyone that I'm talking to also English is their first language. So please, it's okay if you're not a native speaker or you kind of struggle through it. I'll understand you eventually and moderate. Two, please be in a quiet space. If you're outside or you're in a loud space, I'm not going to be able to hear you talk, and it's going to be hard to answer your question. And then three, please be respectful. These gentlemen are my guests here on the AMA. I won't tolerate people being rude to them or anything like that. You'll just get muted and, taken out of the space anyway, so it's not worth it. And then, along with that, please don't shill your project here. I've had people that come in and they just try and, yell about their project. I can tell you as a marketer, it's not a good way to get people to your project. So just, once again, you're going to be blocked, muted, taken out of the space. We're here to talk about Kounotori token. If your project that you're working on, you want to be an asset to them, to connect with them, sure, why not ask them about it? But we're here to talk about your questions about Kounotori token, the ecosystem, the project, hopes, concerns, etc. Sufyan, you have been raising your hand like a madman, so let's add you as a speaker, and hopefully you will show up here soon. Hey, Sufyan.
Hello.
Hey, yeah, you're here. You can ask a question.
Can I ask a question now?
Absolutely.
Okay, guys. I saw on your website that KTO token has supply in quadrillions, and you guys were saying that you are planning to develop a blockchain in future. Don't you think that supply is too much for that?
So, I mean, on the point of max supply, I think one thing that people need to understand. So, just to be clear, a quadrillion is one with 15 zeros. Okay. Traditional fiat currency works at 2 decimal places, right? So if you have £1, you can have £1 59, but that's how many decimal places it goes to. By default, ERC20 tokens go to 18 decimal places. So you could launch a token with 1 total supply, and you would be able to split that by 18 decimal places. So the number in max supply, it doesn't really matter. In the nicest way possible, most projects will have a max supply in the billions because they want their holders to feel like, what if this becomes worth $1 one day? I could make, this could become $1 billion company. Kounotori can't become a $1 token, right? Because there isn't a quadrillion dollars. And so the max supply is kind of irrelevant, honestly, for any project. It's just a number, and, this is a number we've gone with. I mean, there may be a story behind it. Martin can tell you more about that, but it doesn't really matter. Like I say, we could have launched with 1 token, and then we just have a way smaller number as we'd have an extremely high single token price, and it'd be like Bitcoin, where people are really, anyone actually using Bitcoin for payments is using like a thousandth of a Bitcoin, like Bitcoin with a small m you would have seen, because it's just too expensive. You can't really price anything in the world in Bitcoin anymore, because if I want to buy, a bread, you can't tell me how much Bitcoin that would be. You have to fractionalize that Bitcoin to a smaller number. So max supply doesn't really matter. And on the second point of developing a blockchain, same thing, right? Like, again, it doesn't, Ripple has an unlimited max supply effectively, and it still, still exists and still very successful.
Okay, got it. And what about the Nest console? Will it work like Certic does?
I'll let someone else take that.
Sorry, can you repeat that question, because I didn't hear properly?
Okay. Can you please tell me about the Nest console? Will it work like Certic does?
Sorry, like what? Like Certic?
Like Certic audit different projects?
Yeah, so basically what we plan to do is after we go through verification of any projects that wants to be listed on our exchange, like, is audit or KYC, we want to actually give people opportunity to vote on a project. So basically all KTO holders will be able to vote if they want to launch that project on our platform or not. And that's Nest Council basically.
Okay, that's it. Thank you for your answer, and best of luck for your project.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Sufan, for the great questions.
Thank you.
So it looks like the next one up is going to be Sheik Ryan. Sheik, please join us. Anybody who wants to ask a question, you can line up and request. And you should be approved here in 1 second, Sheik. I approved you. But as we know, Twitter can...
Yeah, absolutely. I'm surprised none of us have been kicked off yet.
well,
I've got a terrible track record for that.
That's what I thought was happening to TA Jake, but...
Yeah.
It also might depend on where you are. Oh, okay. Sheik, you should be connected right now. That's what Twitter's telling me. But it also might depend on your connection, wherever you are in the world.
Says that he's still a listener for me.
Yeah, it says that he was approved, and now he's not approved, and I'm going to approve him again. If we don't get him in a little bit, guys, we can... it may also just be this Twitter space, as I've known that sometimes you can go into a Twitter space and it'll kick people.
Yeah,
there he goes.
they can just be unexplicably bugged sometimes.
Well, yeah, and to be fair, it's like, hey, it's free, right? We didn't have to pay anything to get in here, so just the fact that we're talking at all is amazing. That's the way I kind of look at it. So anybody who wants to, well, it looks like you got kicked, and we'll try one more time. See, it's telling me that you can speak on my end, but I still see you as requested. You're giving me the purple heart.
You might be on. If you're not in the Twitter app, it doesn't work. You can't be on Twitter mobile in web. You have to be in the app.
There you go, Sheik. Yeah, you're in. You're in, Sheik.
There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, you can ask a question.
Okay, I have an internet issue. That's the reason why I can't speak up there. My question is, what's the benefit of people that hold your tokens? Like, did you have any governed tokens, or, most of you people don't really care about the benefit of holding a token? Oh, shit.
Yeah, currently, as we spoke about a little bit before, if you're holding Kounotori currently, then you obviously receive reflections in the form of our native token. Obviously, once the exchange launches, there will be staking in place, which will be even more beneficial. The fact that now you can hold Kounotori and receive passive income without the exchange being present is why we've implemented this. But yeah, in time, being a holder of Kounotori once the exchange has been built will have numerous benefits. And as we've talked about before, being part of the Nest Council, wherein you are able to help evolve the project and the platform, you're able to vote for which tokens you'd like to see next and make other various changes known. It's got a number of benefits, really.
Oh, thanks. I love that. You got a lot of benefits from holding your token. And my second question is, you're kind of a DEX. Are you going to support other projects if they want to launch on your DEX, or you're just going to supply a project built on your chains? I don't know if you get a question.
Do you mind just repeating that one more time?
I think I got it.
Okay.
I think the question was, are we a DEX, and will we are we going to be selective about the projects that come on? So firstly, we're not a DEX, right? So like we're specifically not a DEX. So DEX is a decentralized exchange, and we're a centralized exchange. And as we were saying earlier, one of the reasons we are a centralized exchange is so that not anyone can just turn up and launch a project on our platform. So yeah, we're going to be quite selective. Our I guess process is very much around, can the people involved be trusted? And so we as we said before, are going to be quite selective about who can get onto the platform.
Oh, thank you. That was my question. I would appreciate you for answering that.
Thank you.
I wish you success ahead of it.
Very good, very good. Well, thank you so much for the excellent questions, Sheik. And sorry we had some of those connection issues. It looks like K-Ray, you also want to ask a question, and you might have a little bit better time trying to connect here. Nope, you're gone, K-Ray. as soon as you get let in, you're gone. All righty, gentlemen. Well, let's see. Wait, K-Ray, you requested it again. Something's happening with this space. We're gonna keep moving on. Keep moving on. I approved you.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Hey, K-Ray, we can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, I must have hit the button inadvertently. Anyway, like this project, been reading over the white paper and the web page and so forth. The roadmap looks very intriguing, of course, as well, with the top 20, top 10, and what was it, top 5 exchange listing. just curious as to, I guess, how are you guys gonna get those exchange listings?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so far we've managed to uphold to our roadmap that we released prior to investors some time ago. In that, what was a considerable milestone for the project, especially at this stage, was being able to list on Bitmart and offer that secure alternative way of purchasing Kounotori via the USDT pair. In terms of future plans for future exchanges, of course, we are constantly looking for opportunities, and we are in communication with other people. Far too early, of course, to announce anything or go into things without confirmation. But yes, we're constantly on the lookout for exchanges and opportunities to help provide funds and marketing funds and development funds for Kounotori. There's a number of things, and I wish I could talk about them, but unfortunately, I just cannot at this stage because these things need to be confirmed, and these things there's a bit of headway to do currently before we can officially announce anything. But yeah, rest assured, while Tech Alchemy and ourselves are pushing forward on the development of the exchange, we're also looking at various opportunities that will help us with volume and will help us for outreach of the project itself.
And then, what about any other plans? I know you guys are ERC 20 token, so are there any other future plans to add another chain to be able to, I don't know, say like Binance or BNB or Cosmos or whatever other chains that you'd be tradable on as well?
And we're actually on Polygon too since I think for 6 months now. So you can also find us on Polygon.
Oh, okay, great. Okay. Yeah, love the project. Just adding to my bag, and we'll continue buying DCing and into the project, and look forward to future updates and so forth. So thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Appreciate your questions.
Nice. Yeah. Thank you, K-Ray. Always nice to have good questions like that. We've got one more person that's popped up. Sent Luchis. I'm going to butcher this name, so I'm just going to stop saying it. Sent Luck. I know that's part of the name. And I have approved you, so hopefully you come in here soon.
Hello.
Hey, yeah, we can hear you.
I have a question.
Sure, yeah, ask away.
Yes. So, my question is, what is your top 3 things for properties in 2022? Could you share some plan for the upcoming year?
Sure, yeah, this might be actually a good time for guys. Why don't you just briefly go over, let's do this. Let's do the roadmap for 2022, and then as we end and I'm telling people where they can find you, you can really expand on the roadmap if you want to. But I know that people probably have questions about that.
Yeah. Could you share some plan for upcoming year?
Yeah, sure. If we're talking about the development roadmap, which we'll be releasing imminently, then we are looking at the purpose of this roadmap is to inform investors of where we are at what stage of the project we are week by week, so that they can follow along the development with us. At the same time, it's because what we've taken perhaps for granted in the past is I'm explaining these things and where we are within development via AMA, However, not everyone's obviously able to make AMAs. We can record them and then pass them details on to people. But the idea of this roadmap existing for the development is solely to make it clearer to investors where we are and what's happening, so that they can be aware of when imminent things are coming, such as alpha phase, beta phase, and then testing, when things are being audited, and that it helps display those milestones. If we're talking about the general roadmap that we have for the project, then, as I've said, of course, we're looking to release the exchange first and foremost. But then, of course, we will look into various other ways of pushing Kounotori. Some of which, is early talks, early doors. But yes, of course, as we talked about before, implementing a Kounotori card with various benefits coming on that, and implementing an NFT kind of marketplace, based on the feedback that we've had so far about our NFTs, people have responded really positively. So that would be something that we'd definitely consider. And then, of course, long-term goal will be to create our own blockchain. So, the buck doesn't stop at merely the exchange. That is just what we are 110% focused on right now, and giving you updates as often as we can. But beyond the exchange, there's definitely a lot to look forward to that we are in the very early process of looking at.
Okay, thanks.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I was on mute there. Very cool. Yes, thank you for the good question there. Gentlemen, let's try and take 2 more questions, and then I'm going to stop us, and we can, do your roadmap and end your sign-off stuff, because I know that your time is valuable, and as long as we get to an hour in a space where we've covered all the bases of a project and we've really taken the time to have no interruptions and go in deep, that's usually my goal. We've hit that goal. Like I said, I hate it when people do like 20-minute Twitter spaces or clips where it's clear that, they don't realize that people work hard on this stuff. So I just like to get the full story, and people in the space, they can decide whether they want to invest or not, or get involved or not. So as long as we've gone over all that stuff, I'm good. Panda, you should be here. If you want to unmute yourself, you can ask a question.
Hey, what's up?
What up, Panda?
How's it going? This is more of a question for Tech Alchemy. Is it possible to have monthly payments for staking, but you can opt out of the early cancellation? So, for example, you have a 12-month staking period, but you get paid every month, but you can't cancel the staking early.
You can or can't cancel. So everything is possible. I mean, so a lot of staking platforms have lock-in periods where, they say you stake for 3 months, and they can still unlock your actual staking rewards as often as you like. So if your question is it possible? Absolutely. And even cancellation, right? Like you'd have to implement it. You'd have to decide that that's something you want to do. It's not just by default something you can do, but you could have a, penalty, a percentage penalty, or a fixed fee that would allow you to unlock your tokens as well. I don't know if that's in the roadmap, but I can tell you from a possibility perspective, yeah, absolutely.
Gotcha. All right, awesome. Thanks.
No worries.
And thank you, Panda, for not eating eucalyptus leaves right there on the mic. That's what pandas eat, right? Am I correct on that? No, is that that's koala bears.
Maybe bamboo.
Oh gosh, wrong continent.
Yeah, bamboo.
Okay, wrong continent. It looks like we had another question in the queue, but they left. So okay, that's fine. That's all right. Panda, that was a good question to kind of round this out. And gentlemen, let's talk about your roadmap for this year and your hopes and dreams for the future, and that'll be a great way to close us out. And we can talk about the best places to find you, where you want people to interact with you, maybe, your Discord, social, stuff like that. So whoever wants to talk about it, you can talk about the full roadmap from phase 1 until now. You can talk about this year. You can talk about, what's KTO going to be 5 years in the future. Go crazy with it.
I'll let someone else jump in perhaps after me, but I just want to emphasize that once again, we are fully focused on the exchange currently and putting all resources and all brain power into the exchange. But yeah, we will definitely have things that are coming following that. Obviously, there are catalysts in between, such as exchange listings and benefits to the currency. We're pushing forward with because we've obviously established our limited company, so that gives more validity to what we're doing and what we're building, and is a bit of a requirement to obviously having to manage the exchange. We've opened up various ways of financing things through the company, which has been enormously helpful, and will definitely allow us to reach said catalysts, within our roadmap quite a bit quicker. That's something that we're currently working on right now. And then hopes and dreams for Kounotori is that people use this platform and are able to trade, discuss, stake, and be an all-in-one inclusive platform that can do all these things. And as we say, it's a community-driven project, both in the currency and the platform. And we're hoping that people will, be around to help us evolve and help us push forward this exchange, and then build the blockchain much later into the future, following the launch of the exchange.
Very good, very good. Anybody else want to give their comments, their hopes, dreams on that? Anything like that?
Yeah, so basically, like Martin said, we are fully focusing on creating our exchange for now. Bleeding market, crypto market in general is not helping us with that. But yeah, our plan for this and next year is to just develop first beta, then platform, then staking, NFT marketplace, all that basic stuff we want to we want to develop, and then think about other things like the blockchain, for example, or Visa card.
Absolutely, and oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to jump in and add to that I think you definitely see a lot of projects, especially in the past, where they're promising too much and trying to deliver too much at one time. And that is where we are taking the approach in that we are focused on the exchange and the exchange alone for now. Obviously, we're talking about other things that we're looking to build beyond it. But yeah, very much don't want to convolute and make a mess of things by offering too many things and then not being able to deliver on timelines. It's important to us that we focus just on the exchange for now, make it as good and as accessible as possible, and implement all ideas and improvements that the community itself has been suggesting, even as we're just a token currently. So yeah, just to stress that we don't want to overcomplicate things. We want to just deliver on this for now. But yeah, of course, we're looking to do things beyond the exchange in the future.
Absolutely, and it's funny because everybody wants you to multitask in the crypto world, and they want you to make them a millionaire, give them an online community, give them NFT. They want you to give them 7 things at once. But I can't remember where I heard this adage, but they were like, if you want to see juggling, you got to go to the circus, right? And I don't think people want to live at the circus. So, It's
It's a good analogy. Yeah.
it's you let people work, let people do what they're good at, right? You don't expect the person that's taking your order at McDonald's to also, advise you on your 401k portfolio holdings. Let people do what they're supposed to do and what they're passionate about doing, and good things will come if you're patient and you allocate your resources correctly. So, guys, the website that I've been looking at for everybody looking at here is kounotoritoken.com, and I realize we probably didn't spell Kounotori. It's Kounotori, and it is a Japanese word, as the gentlemen have said here before. So, where else should they find you online? Is there a Discord community they should join? Where, to learn all about KTO, what do you gentlemen recommend?
We definitely recommend to join our Discord because the majority of our community is actually on Discord, and we have really a lot of people there, over almost 2,000 people. Everyone is active. We host different community events there, so yeah, the Discord is a good place to start.
Very cool, very cool. And I know that all of those socials are on kounotoritoken.com. There's quite a lot. Twitter, Discord, Telegram, Instagram, Reddit, Twitch. Interesting. We could get into a whole rabbit hole about what the Twitch is. But there's also a store for Kounotori merchandise. All sorts of stuff. Doxed, Certic audited. You've heard the gentleman here talk about all the stuff that they are trying to build, first and foremost with the community-driven centralized exchange, the 20% APR that they're going to pay out, an NFT marketplace, NFT staking, their hopes for their own blockchain, a governance council called the Nest Council, everything Stork-related, but in a tasteful Stork way, which is hard to do. You don't see that in a lot of projects. So I just wanted to thank all the guys here for being with me on this Twitter Spaces and talking all about KTO, Kounotori token. Gentlemen, unless there's anything that you have a burning desire to say, we're going to wrap it up here. It's been really fun talking with you for almost an hour and a half now.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you to everyone who's taken the time to tune in and listen. Hopefully, you've learned something about the project, and hopefully, you'll do your research and check us out.
Absolutely. And if you've just tuned in, if you tuned in halfway, if you missed some of this, don't worry. I'm going to take this audio, I'm going to clean it up a little bit, and I'm going to archive it on the Crypto Conversations podcast stream where I have all these archives. So, if you got kind of tripped up by some of the stuff that we were talking about with the anti-honeypot or the anti-tax manipulation, or you can't remember whether a sandwich attack involves wheat bread or a smart contract address, don't worry. You can go and listen to the entire conversation. You can learn. You can take action from there with the links towards their website and all that. All right, gentlemen, on behalf of Bitmart and everybody here, I'm going to say goodbye and good luck to everybody out there in crypto land. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.